to Wake Up Missoula. I am your host, Scott Ramf. I'm here to usher you into the weekend. It is the first weekend in November, which also means it's First Friday, and I'm going to have a wonderful program for you guys to enjoy, courtesy of Arts Missoula and a couple art museums around town that you guys can enjoy virtually, but also they do have open hours for limited access. Missoula Art Museum. Actually, I don't want to go on a tangent about it, but they do have, the galleries are open, but with the COVID and everything, they want to restrict the amounts of people on for the First Friday. But they have a virtual First Friday in which I will premiere for you guys this afternoon, where you get a jump on it before you guys get a chance to watch it premiere live on YouTube and Facebook through MCAT. So more on that a little bit later. One thing that's happening is the election. It's still going on, but in Montana, we pretty much, everything has gone red. And the one thing that's definitely surprised me is with everything that's gone red in Montana, the legalization of marijuana and the age of purchasing has been moved to 21 for marijuana. So starting January 1st, 2021, you'll be able to recreationally buy marijuana, and to your delight. There you go. The infrastructure is kind of already put in place in Missoula, so you guys can definitely look into that a little bit more. I'll let you guys do that. I'm not going to tell you guys how to get weed. Sorry. But if you haven't already noticed, Higgins Bridge has started their construction. This is mostly old news, but this is more of an informative kind of talk this morning to tell you guys where you can find more information about the progress in which they plan on wrapping up the bridge by May of 2021. And they're going to do a Russell Bridge kind of style deal where they're going to finish one half of the bridge and then open that up and then close the other half bridge and work on that. So right now they're working on it. It looks like they're going pretty fast. It is a major traffic section of Missoula because it goes to the heart of Missoula. So if you Google Higgins Bridge Project, you can go to their website. They do have weekly Zoom meetings where they're going to be talking about the bridge and all the efforts being put into place. One of the biggest things is that it got awarded a federal grant for being able to build the bridge. So it's through the Montana Department of Transportation. Yeah, so like again, if you Google Higgins Bridge, Missoula, you'll be able to see the webpage, and it gives you a nice attachment where you guys can see kind of what's going on there, and they give you a recurring Zoom link in which you guys can join into the meeting. One of the things that Montana is also doing is that we are also rolling up and being a part of that class action lawsuit against Google. So I've told you guys a couple weeks ago that the Department of Justice of the United States of America have decided to present a lawsuit to Google for antitrust. And one of the things has to do with the fact that Google is 90% of search engines used. And they're looking into the Sherman Act, which was initiated many years ago against Rockefeller when his company was being too much of a monopoly, so they had to break it up. And that's part of what they're doing with Google. Big tech is the new modern kind of a Rockefeller company where it's really big. And a lot of times, let's see here, Montana Attorney General Tim Fox says, while consumers may see the service as free and are not paying out-of-pocket expenses, that does not necessarily mean the service is free. A lot of scrutiny has been in terms of data mining and using your search information to target ads to you. So in the age of www.IamRightAndYou'reWrong.com comes the question: with one search engine, how can you truly fact check or counter fact check from one search engine? So a question that will be looked into through this class action against Google, Congress, Department of Justice. There's a lot of people behind this moving forward on this as well. And moving on to another topic, Greg Gianforte became the governor of the state of Montana, and who will officially reign in 2021 of January. One of the things coming up in this upcoming legislature is school choice, a word that is going to be very synonymous with how Montana is going to move forward with working on tax credits for private schools. So part of this, with an ever-growing desire to get private school tax credit, would also allocate funds that you would have to pay to public schools. So a lot of public schools may lose some money if they plan on moving forward with this plan. Part of the story is from the Billings Gazette, dove a little bit deeper into history with Catholic schools were looking for aid to launch a Catholic school in the state of Montana, but we're against that but we're looking for government funding to get them off the ground in Montana. But because of what the Montana Supreme Court ruling referred to the state's constitution, no aid provision for religious organizations, including religious schools. On the federal level, the Supreme Court ruled that such entities would go against our Constitution with the separation of church and state. Churches also don't pay taxes. Up next, I'm going to be talking about some movies that are going to be coming out this weekend. But for right now, here's another promo for the new library.
MCAT is Missoula's community media resource. MCAT offers equipment like camera rentals and training like instruction and distribution help like cable TV channels, starting your own YouTube channel, a short clip for Instagram or Facebook. MCAT helps people who want to make TV shows, social media clips, and podcasts. In our new home, in the Missoula Public Library, MCAT will be offering classes in camera use, getting the best sound and lighting quality, how to use a multi-camera studio with green screen and other special effects. In addition, we will be teaching video editing on popular platforms like iMovie, Final Cut Pro, and Adobe Premiere. For kiddos, we offer animation classes along with other multimedia activities for after school, during the weekend, and summer camps. MCAT has been serving the Missoula community for over 30 years with the material and the guidance to let your creative side blossom in audio, visual, video. Be sure to visit us on the first floor of the new Missoula Public Library.
Hello guys, welcome back. Let's talk a little bit about Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a movie based on absolutely nothing but maybe the picture and who's in the movie. And Kevin Costner has a tendency to do those movies where it'd be like, it's a Kevin Costner movie. It doesn't really matter who his character is, you just know it's Kevin Costner in a movie. So, he's not filming Yellowstone, but he is filming a Montana-type movie where he's a retired sheriff who must rescue his grandson from the bumpkins, some North Dakota off-the-grid family bumpkins, because apparently that's how a lot of Hollywood views Montana as Ted Kaczynski types. So work on that manifesto as this script goes a little bit deeper in terms of a family of bumpkins where Kevin Costner must save his grandson after his son's dead. So it's kind of like, it's like my grandson's the only bloodline that I got left since my son died tragically or was killed. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Okay, so I can just say people in the Midwest aren't moving here because they want to be off the grid. More like lower taxes and less hustle and bustle from the big city life. You know, I just can't sleep with all this quiet in the prairie lands. So Let Him Go is what this movie is called. And Let Him Go, or Let This Movie Go. This next movie is called, okay, first of all, when you add the in the title, in The Dark and the Wicked, it automatically thinks of The Fast and the Furious. So first of all, let's not make movies with the in the title. It's just way too much. Unless you're actually turning into the franchise, so the next movie would be Too Dark, Too Wicked. Then there's going to be Dark and the Wicked 3, Tokyo Drift, which actually could work because Japanese make really good horror films. A galvanized still fan in the picture of the upside down cross. So it's a lot of evil stuff. So it's a small family. So the synopsis is like it's a small family who's isolated on a farm, and strange things start to happen. I guess in a way it could be more psychological, because a lot of times when you're on a farm it's really boring and there's really not much going on here. Just a little more personal thing in my own life. My dad grew up on a farm and he hated it because it was boring and it was a lot of tedious work, and he says he'll never want to go back to a farm again, even the farm that's in our family. All right, so speaking of horror movies, when does Freaky come out? Because I'm kind of excited for that one. It's basically like Freaky Friday, but with a serial killer. Anyways, moving on. Mortal. Mortal. This film is interesting because it's from the same guy and company that brought you Power Rangers from all those years ago, and that one Daniel Radcliffe movie where they like nailed guns to his hands and he's just kind of running around. Yeah, that's that. This movie is about a superpowered drifter trying to avoid killing people with his Human Torch type abilities. The bad guys, you guessed it, it's the government trying to trace him down to control him and maybe weaponize his powers for blah blah blah, evil intent, yada yada yada, all that stuff. So I'm pretty sure there's a scene where he meets up with the locals in the town, and at the end of the movie they'd be like, he's one of us. And then, but first of all, they have to get to the whole thing where they're just like, I don't understand you, but I just want you to know that I'm here for you. And that's the kind of movie that you can expect from this. Running from the government, there's probably a huge climactic scene where he's like blasting them with his powers. And from the picture, I can say, I guess he controls lightning in a way. I don't know. It's going to be very weird. So, there's also another movie that totally reminds me of. It's called Powder. Back in those old days when they had characters who had very unique abilities, and they didn't really allude to the fact that there were a bunch of government people isolating and coming down to attack them. It was mostly just like maybe like a government liaison person who comes down and meets them and be like, yeah, you seem pretty cool, let's hang out, let's learn more. So they ease into it and then you learn the story, but then the person like disappears in the end, and then it's like maybe the person wasn't really part of this world. But you don't expect this from this movie. There's a lot of spectacle and special effects. All right. Anyways, up next, here is dubbin stuff from a bunch of 90s references from a movie that's over 90 years old. So, check it out. So then I said, aren't you glad I didn't say banana?
You don't start a joke at the end. Listen, Cappy, I don't need this kind of sass from you. I'm going through a lot.
Pray tell.
My girlfriend keeps pressuring me to pop the question.
Well, I'm sorry, your life is so great.
On the surface, maybe, but not on the inside. I'm very sad, and I'm having cold feet. I'm having second thoughts about everything these days. My IBS flares up at weird times. I constantly feel like I have to walk on eggshells with her. Well, I heard you laughing. Quit making fun of my dilemma. Okay, love you, bye. Well, now I gotta... Honey, it's really good to see you.
What's that here about cold
That's
feet?
ridiculous. I got hot feet.
I know that you're going through some stuff right now.
Oh, no, don't worry about me.
You know, I really tried to get those tickets to Hoobastank.
Listen, honey, I don't have to listen to them live.
But you've been wanting these...
Listen, honey, I got plenty of recordings of Hoobastank, and I can listen to them anytime.
No, it's not the same.
My whole life, I've only had one love, until I met you, and now I have two
I just hate the
loves.
thought that you're blaming me for not getting tickets to the concert.
No, wait, honey, that's nonsense. Come on, don't get all sad.
But I feel bad because you wanted to get that t-shirt sign of the original spelling of Hoobastank with a U instead of what it is today with an A.
Yeah, that would have been really great.
It's just so difficult to please you, and I know that you only have one love, and I really just let you down on that.
Whether you buy Hoobastank or you don't get Hoobastank, as long as you love Hoobastank as much as I do, I will love you just as much.
But not more than Hoobastank? I can tell by your reaction that you'll never love me more. This really sucks. Far be it from me, I'm gonna stand in the way of your true love.
Honey, life isn't an or, it's an and. And also, could you get a pick of my dry cleaning for me?
Well, this isn't really the time
Well, that's the least you can do forgetting about the tickets.
I suppose I could, but I'm not happy about it one bit.
Who gives a damn if you're happy or not?
Kate!
Awkward! Why don't you just mind your
really
business,
gonna cut
okay?
you.
Well, pardon me, young lovers. I just have a job to... Hello, I would like 3 tickets to the Rockettes tonight. If you wouldn't mind. Come on, honey, let's get out of here.
I'm just gonna stand out in this
all
window,
3
okay?
tickets are just for me. I need space on either side of the seats. I plan to have a big bucket of popcorn filled with candy, and on the other side, I'll have all the drinks that I could ever... Owie! Alright, let's get out of here. We don't need to deal with this sass. Hello? Hello, anyone there? Hello? Oh, no. Do not worry about me. I was just distracting the lovers' quarrel. After all, I'm just here to get tickets to the Rockettes. Oh, so what you're saying is that I can purchase 5 tickets for the purchase of 4, so that means I can bring my pets to the show. I love it when things work out.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for your city council report. And one of the things that they were talking about is a really short meeting, but we're kicking things off with what Matt Larson, who's been pretty prolific in public comments, is speaking against a 3D printer for the police department. And this is what he had to say.
It is totally superfluous as far as I can tell, in any sort of stopping school violence capacity. The city has yet to produce any true documentation regarding this grant. And again, I think it's somewhat deplorable that you guys spend money in this regard. And we've mapped all the entrances and exits and all the windows and everything, I believe, in the entire county, if not the entire state, years ago. So we have plans. We have everything we need to implement like any sort of safety protocol that needs to be done. So buying this equipment in the guise of school safety is just, again, like I said, deplorable. But
most buildings do have blueprints and for officials to use during fires and emergencies. Montana schools, as far as I can remember, installed trespasser alarms. It's the little blue alarm that's there that you pull in case there's a, like there could be a threat that's not fire related. The city did vote in favor of the 3D printer, but before you think that the city is misappropriating funds for the police department, understand that they got this through a grant and they used the money through grants to pay for this 3D printer. The city went into the 2021 budget again to clarify funds that are being distributed through the CARES Act. So during COVID, money was allocated to certain funds and certain organizations to help continue the PPP program was put in place to some companies to keep paying their employees during these times as well. Yeah, there's a lot of light just popping in and out. So without further ado, here's Lee Griffin, and she's talking about the process and help clarify the funds for the fiscal year 2021.
We are unable to amend the budget per state law. We can amend the budget during the fiscal year by conducting public hearings at regularly scheduled meetings. And these, of course, have to be noticed. And one of the reasons that I point that out for folks is so that people can understand why it might seem like it takes a long time to amend the budget, because we get new information, we bring it to committee, then we do at least 2 newspaper notifications, and then we bring it to 2 public hearings.
Money, especially these days, are tight, and many programs that were put in place months ago are seeing results of the city budgets. But with the CARES Act, they're inflating money in there, which in a way is, I would consider it like soft money. So they're saying it's like, oh, you're going to get money, but we don't know exactly how much you're going to get. The amount of money you requested is different from the amount of money that you might get from the CARES Act. So they had to basically use the funding from last year to accommodate the ones for this year. The funds, basically they had to finish the fiscal year for 2021 budget in August, but they keep it open so they can make adjustments and make final adjustments to the funds as well. There's been many speculations and many people calling out the city for not being very clear with their budget, but at the same time the city also is unclear with their budget, especially when it comes to having money and coming from the grants. So just think about that moving forward. Man, that light just really just keeps on popping in and out. Okay, let's see what else is there. Many Parks and Rec budgets are approved before they get money through grants. A lot of Parks and Rec department is a prime example of money that they get from grants, but a lot of times what they use is their formula that they used last year to be like, this is how much money that we've made through these grants. We're always looking for new opportunities to add money to the department as well, but it has to go through the city before it finally goes to the departments where they're meant to go. So that basically, this was basically an update in the budget. It was mostly for clarification and basically just adding more like actual real money versus the kind of placeholders that they had in place. The city continued on public hearings on trapping in Missoula parks and trails. Missoula is a very dog-loving town, and a lot of people came together and agreed that they should not have trapping. So trapping is a hunting technique used for people who are hunters in Montana, and also some farmers who have to deal with some invasive predators that may threaten their livestock. But this is supposed to be for parks and trails where people recreate. Julie Merritt, Missoula City Council member, speaks on this.
Titled Trapping on City Parks, Trails, Conservation Lands, and amending Section 12.40.080 to allow for restitution for injury or death of a pet, and authorizing Missoula Parks and Recreation Department to spring, release, or confiscate animal traps or snares found within city parks, trails, and conservation lands. And if I could speak to that briefly.
You may.
I want to give a big thanks to Susan Auberg with the Missoula City Attorney's Office, and Morgan Valiant and Donna Gockler at Parks and Rec. They helped a lot in getting the language of this ordinance put together. And of course, perpetually, I give my thanks to Marty Rabine for her assistance in the legislative process.
The Humane Society, Footloose Montana are part of the organizations behind this update ordinance. To basically, this is an updated ordinance, and one of the biggest things is that would allow judges to provide more restitutions to pets being hurt, and also allow for Parks and Rec staff to go to these places and set off traps and confiscate these traps from people as well, and also fine those who are putting traps on the parks and trails. As an ordinance, ordinances can't throw you in jail, but ordinances can only do fees. That I say this a lot, but it's just one of the things that the city of Missoula can make these ordinances, and they're more like they're fines. There's no ordinance that is ever powerful enough to throw you in jail. I just had to clarify that. I don't know why I brought that up, but just wanted to clarify. But the city voted in favor of this update on the ordinance, but also be aware that federal public lands do still have traps, and like I read last week, the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks says that fur trapping is a highly regulated, biological, sustainable, and an important part of Montana's cultural history and outdoor lifestyle. Trapping can also be used to protect crops and property, reducing threats to human health and safety, population monitoring information including trends, distribution, reproductive data, presence of toxins, etc. So a lot of times trapping is used for people who can't actively hunt the invasive species that are eating their crops, or also targeting their cattle, which Fish, Wildlife, and Park have put into place for education, but also reimbursement programs to help people who have lost animals to wolves. Because with the reintroduction of wolves, I'm going on a tangent here, but I just want to be a little more clear on it. But with the reintroduction of wolves, Fish, Wildlife, and Park kind of took heed, and a lot of organizations within that took heed into making sure that the wolves are protected, while at the same time making sure that the livelihoods of ranchers and farm folks are not being affected by it. Regardless if they are affected, they have restitutions to help fix that. Anyways, public safety and health. I want to talk a little bit more about the tobacco flavor ban. That was a big, huge news thing last couple weeks. The city of Missoula has kind of evolved over the last couple years because vaping and flavored tobacco products have been very popular, and especially with vaping. When you have candy flavored vape and all that stuff, there's an indirect causation when it comes to your kids basically wanting this, and it's completely proven on so many avenues. I don't have it right here, but they've looked into it more, and vaping's not safer, and it was a weird new technology in which the state of Montana had to close a lot of loopholes, including vaping indoors. I mean, that was something that was a huge issue, and a lot of people were complaining about people who were vaping indoors, and then they had to clarify that vaping is just as bad as smoking, therefore you can't do it inside. I mean, it's been around for over a year now, and that you can't just vape inside, period. City Attorney Jim Nugent has looked into potential lawsuits that could look like what they might look like in terms of just like putting an ordinance that would ban flavored tobacco and vaping products, and that the city wants to try to reduce the use of flavored tobacco products. I wasn't able to download the meeting, so I can't give you a couple representations, but it was a lot of the same public comments that we've had in the past. Big tobacco companies were calling the city of Missoula, not threatening, but indirectly saying that they are opening themselves up to a potential lawsuit, which kind of sounds like threatening, but at the same time, a lot of people who were against this ordinance mostly had their wallets that would have been affected, but most of the people who were in favor of this ordinance, a lot of mothers, a lot of concerned citizens who are afraid that they're going to create a whole new generation of people who are addicted to cigarettes and nicotine products. Most of the public, okay, blah, blah, blah. So actually, they went back to committee meetings on this to clarify some language, but also have even tighter restrictions on tobacco ban flavors. But they haven't voted officially on it since it was a committee meeting, and they'll move forward to put it on the consent agenda moving forward, in which they'll make a final vote on it possibly on Monday. So you guys can check ahead on the website at ci.missoula.mt.us for more information and learn more about how your city operates and runs, and how we're working with the new system in terms of not meeting in person, but they still do Zoom webinars that they do every week, and you can have access to that webpage and document to be a part of that Zoom meeting and give your public comments. So once again, ci.missoula.mt.us, all that and more. This is the turn down of my show. I wanted to thank you guys for joining me this morning as well. Library news, still a lot of just same old. Libraries closed to the general public. They have a little more tighter restrictions for the staff. So any staff members that work there, it's on a sign in, sign out kind of system that they have going on there. So that's something new that I'm working on as well. Take your temperature check. They're doing a lot of things that are making sure that everything's good to go. The building is large enough so they can have a good amount of staff there, but they're aware that there are a couple rooms that can't have any social distancing, so they're restricting a certain amount of number of people in each room. I was planning to do a tour with a small group, but with the updated restrictions at the library, they can't bring in strangers to the library. The library staff have to sign in. The finishing construction workers are contracted to be there. They won't need to sign in. They're just finishing up and doing their thing. And that's kind of what's going on with the library news. All I know is that at some point next year, January 15th, I'm not necessarily married to that date, but it's the projected date in which the Missoula Public Library plans to be open to the public, and I'm assuming it's going to be at a certain restriction depending upon what's going to happen in the state of Montana. But in the city of Missoula, they might have keep their tighter restrictions on COVID and prevent anybody from not wearing masks. But with this new extremely red legislation that's coming in here, I don't want to sound biased or one thing or another, but it kind of seems like in one way or another that a lot of restrictions might be loosened up with a more Republican governor as we go into 2021. So look out for that. We all are in this together, and we all have to figure out the best way to prevent spreads of illnesses. It tends to happen in terms of just like small interactions with folks you've never met before. Like your social circle's perfectly fine, but just be aware that you just never know who might just give it to you. And a lot of times if you have a pretty tight-knit group in your household, when one person gets it, it could be very detrimental for most of your roommates to get it. So 2 weeks can kind of turn into a couple more weeks as well. Damn, that light is going up and down. I'm sorry I sweared, but not really. All right, so as I promised before, I wanted to get in the show, but I also wanted to premiere the Virtual Verse Friday for November, and I hope you have a lovely, bright day. Take care, guys.
Hello everybody, I'm Tom Benson with Arts Missoula, and welcome to November's Virtual First Friday. I'm here at the Clay Studio, And the Clay Studio is part of the virtual First Friday, but it's also open at this very moment. And there are some other galleries that are open as well. So we hope that you can get out and see them either in person or view them here on the virtual First Friday. But I'm here right now to present the Arts Missoula Star Award for this month. Arts Missoula Star began a few years ago, and each month we recognize someone or a business who has recently done a lot of great things to promote the arts in Missoula. Some of our art stars are artists, some are musicians, some are business people who donate generously of their time and resources. Some are behind the scenes volunteers that you may not know about. Some are educators who make sure that the arts are a valued part of our children's education. But all of them have a place in our ever-expanding universe of valued arts supporters. With the current COVID pandemic, there are lots of folks in this community who have responded with great creativity and energy to advance the arts and energize all of us. This month's art star works at the Clay Studio, where I am right now, and she responded to the current pandemic with affordable family clay kits, a classroom clay boxes designed to be accessible to all experiences and age levels. She also was a key to the success of Pot Sketch, the annual fundraiser for the Clay Studio. She organized the live stream event and collected and edited all the video content. Finally, she developed a community workshop program offering low-cost one-day workshops for people to experience working with clay. In the words of the Clay Studio Executive Director Shalene Valenzuela, pandemic or not, she's an awesome person. And I'm talking about Jasmine Raymond, this month's art star. Jasmine!
Yay! Thank you. It's a super wonderful honor to receive this award this month. I've been at the Clay Studio for a long time, I guess it's over 10 years now, and I don't know, it just feels really good to get, this kind of appreciation. It really makes me feel good, and it makes me feel valued, and thank you, Shalene, for everything, and being an awesome person yourself. And thank you, Arts Missoula. This is super cool.
Hi, I'm Tessa. I am a post-bac student at the University of Montana. I did my undergrad at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. And right now I'm working on ceramic sculpture, things that I kind of base on little doodles that I do in my sketchbook whenever I'm bored. And so I set out some of these little drawings that I make here, and they are the base of what I then make with my ceramic sculptures.
We knew that this was the original location of R.H. McKay's art company. He was a photographer in town and worked on this premises from 1924 to about 1944. And during that time, he developed almost all of the large print format black and whites that you see around town. So we knew we had this art history, although the recent configuration of this building and property was in a diner format. But we did have a place and a sense of history that was created here through the photography and the legacy of R.H. McKay. That then led to our mural program. We thought maybe we can use some contemporary young artists and tackle some of these historic old photos of Missoula that were developed on this property. So the other thing about this LA program is we're wanting it to be self-sustaining and an economic engine for essentially mural art. Again, typically a one and done with bricks and paint, but in this system we were hoping to be able to continue the life of this artwork by moving it or selling it and taking proceeds and bringing it right back into the program. The frame system allows this art to be mounted and pushed forward in the frame without damaging the art itself. And that allows it to basically be disassembled and live another life going forward, either in a private collection or perhaps sponsored by a business or perhaps kept together in the collection as a whole.
This outer frame hinges off the top rail. There's a top rail and a bottom rail. It hinges off the top rail and it locks onto the bottom rail. So you can jack the frame out about 18 inches, and then there's a couple kickstands that come down and you can lock it into place while you load the art and unload the art.
When we learned that the McKay Art Company occupied this site many years ago, we decided to build with both this historical framework in mind and its resurrected role as a home for the Montana arts. Ranging from a deep love of history to still current social issues to fantastical worlds, Missoula Redux hopes to convey something old yet new, connecting artists and the viewer across the divide of time.
I personally, as many people probably are at this time, just struggling to find, the positivity and the light. And so I wanted to bring some joy and a little bit of play to the image.
What my image means to me, I really just wanted to do something really enjoyable and fun and nothing too serious. And so I took the two books that it reminded me of, Wizard of Oz and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and kind of did a combination steampunk drawing.
It's kind of a connection to my childhood because it kind of represents the stories I was told growing up, and just a connection to my grandpa because he would try to scare us as kids and try to say like things would come and get us. So kind of connects to my childhood a little bit.
I think it's a really good picture of how Missoula used to look, with the really unique buildings and that unique feel that is kind of unique to this area of Montana. Those kind of downtowns with the really beautiful brick buildings and the architecture, and it was just visually appealing. The shape of it, the buildings coming in down the alley, and it just found it very aesthetically pleasing. I liked the little people.
the concept that there could be this completely whimsical, kind of mythological scene happening that lines up perfectly with the historical photographs. I sort of felt like I was excavating this other scene from that moment.
It's like the historical context of the piece means a lot to me. Representing people in the past who are kind of forgotten to time and showing them again in a kind of colorful light. These women were here and they were in all the newspapers and they had their 15 minutes of fame and they brought it to Missoula. So, yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Christy Hager. I'm an artist here in Missoula, and I invite you to come and see this exhibit when you can. It will be up until early February, so you have some time, and it really is an experience to walk through it. So yeah, please do. Well, the title of this show is Equal, a Work in Progress. And I was inspired because I realized in 2017, it just occurred to me again, that the Equal Rights Amendment that was tried to be passed by all the states starting in 1972, it had never been passed. We still don't have an Equal Rights Amendment, which allows for equal treatment regardless of sex in the entire United States, an amendment to the Constitution. So I wanted to do a tribute to women, and that's why this show is all women. I think what's special about art is that it is a cultural expression. It can speak to you without words. It can, like music, visual art, and so it can communicate on many levels besides the written word. And also, as a cultural expression, it can touch you in a way that reading the law is still abstract. And so this is a very non-abstract representation of these women's humanity. And what I feel is their very unambiguous birthright, which is equality, and which is all people's birthright. So this fabric is a cotton scrim. It's actually called tobacco cloth because I think it's a cloth that was first designed to shade tobacco. So it filters light through it, and I liked it because you could see the images from both directions, and I knew I wanted these to hang in space rather than being against the wall. So as you walk around them, you can see them from both sides. And also, I felt that this transparency, it made me think of just that our time, each of ours time on the planet is relatively short. And the working for justice and equality takes many generations. So I wanted to show these generations in relation to each other, so that you could see sort of through one face and one generation to another and see how we're all connected.
Christy, do you want to talk a little bit about why you chose to include some historical figures or women that you didn't know personally?
Well, there's only 2 women in the show that I didn't know personally, and that's my great-grandmother and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I really wasn't sure that I should do a portrait of a famous person. And, but because of the Equal Rights Amendment and her specific work as a lawyer before she became Supreme Court Justice, I felt like I was drawn to do her portrait. And so I just said, I'm going to do it. If it doesn't work in the exhibit, fine. I have to do her portrait just because she means so much to me. And so I had the disadvantage of not having ever met her and not being able to take her portrait, because when I take a photograph of my friends, I'm in control of the lighting and the gaze and everything. But she had a lot of formal portraits done, and I was able to find one that I felt would work. And so I'm really, it's very important to me at this time to have this portrait done and be included in this show, as she was a champion of equality for everybody, but she was always aiming to uplift women because she experienced a lot of discrimination. She graduated at the top of her class in law school and couldn't get a job in New York because she was a woman and a mother and Jewish. And then she got a job in academia, her first teaching job, because she couldn't get a job in the law office. And they said, well, we're going to hire you, but we're going to pay you less because your husband has a good job. And so as a woman on the faculty, law faculty, you're going to get paid less than men. It's just the way it was, and it's still not over in terms of equal pay. So I think that having her in the show is especially poignant at this time.